Yeah. I mean, there was definitely some good things. I was pleased, overall with majority of the operation, except for that one series where, we had the back-to-back false starts. And then obviously wasn't thrilled with taking, field goals on three of those drives that we were down in the low red zone, right? The one on the hold on the screen to Chris, that ball got down to the the 6 yard line, first down, momentum, hope to punch it in there. And then on the 3rd and 5, on the 5, we had the false start as well, Cade. That brought us back to the 9. A lot harder to convert 3rd and 9 on the 9 than it is 3rd and 5 on the 5. So definitely pleased with being able to put points up and score and have a lot of guys impact the game. But from a process over results standpoint, a lot to clean up.
Liam, you're not going to score 37 points each week, right?
Right.
This is the NFL. But at the same time, have you seen enough through training camp and preseason with your starters and on Sunday's game is it fair to say that this offense has the potential to be one of the higher scoring teams?
I think it's an expectation. It's a standard. It's what we want to do. I mean, I get, pretty frustrated when we, have to punt or settle for a field goal personally, but that's just, all of us being competitors. Games like this, we're going up in a hostile environment against a very quality opponent. Like, what is the expectation? The expectation is still to continue to put points on the board and try to score every possession. Who knows what that reality looks like every week in and week out. But, I think with what we had done in the offseason, that was a standard, that was an expectation for us to go out and score points and, be productive last Sunday.
One of the things we saw early on in the game was Bucky Irving and Rashad White out on the field together at the same time.
Mhm.
I want to say you had 3 plays that were like that,
Yeah.
21 personnel.
Mhm.
Just what do you like about being able to do that?
Yeah, I think we felt good about what we were going to potentially get defensively. That's where sometimes 21 pony, we call it, gets a little hairy. You don't know if you're going to get base defense. You don't know if you're going to get nickel. So we felt good about getting nickel. We felt good about a couple of the plays we had out of that in order to, be efficient in that personnel. This week, not as sure what we're going to get from these guys, especially because they played the whole game in base to 11 last week. So it's something we'd like to be able to build off of to get both those guys on the grass at the same time. But the defense does dictate it a little bit just based on what we're getting and then what we would run out of that group.
What are you seeing in Detroit's defense? I mean, obviously some really talented edge rusher. They revamped their secondary this offseason. So what are some things you really notice about that?
That's where you see the difference, really, is you see the, obviously Aiden, game wrecker, and now they've got another edge guy in Davenport opposite. That's real. The 2 backers are really solid players, Campbell and Anzalone. And then the back end, like you mentioned, you can see that they've really made a conscious effort to improve that area of the defense. They were sticky, like they played matchier last week than they did last year on tape. Last year there was a little bit more free access. That wasn't as much the case the other day in the Rams game. They were definitely playing a little bit matchy, a little bit stickier to the line of scrimmage, trying to take away free access. And then the safeties are good players, man. They're good players. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us, especially in that environment. But we're excited about the challenge.
What Detroit's offense can do, are you expecting or anticipating a little bit of your offense, getting ready for a track meet, so to speak?
It could be that way. Those guys can, they've got a good offense. They've got some good players, but we've got to be ready for really any type of game, right? We got to be ready for a potential track meet. We got to be ready for a 14-10 ball game. However it plays out, we've got to be prepared to go into it with a mindset and mentality to go try to score every time we touch the ball, but also understand we're going to have to adjust and make some adjustments in game based on how they want to play us, because we're really a little bit uncertain right now with what they did last week to LA.
Late in that game, you guys had a drive where I think Baker was mic'd up, called it a big boy drive. You probably remember the ability to be able to just take it and run it when you need to run it and use the clock. That's something every team wants to do. We don't see it very often. What does that mean for you, for the line, for Kevin Carvey, for all those guys?
It's really important. Continuity, chemistry, confidence to say, okay, we've got good skill players. Like that's kind of been the known here, and to be able to say, okay, we've got to be able to run the football. They know we're going to run it, and we've got to run it, and to put together a drive that a little bit broke their will in a way towards the end of that game was important for just our identity, where we're trying to go with this thing. Wasn't perfect by any means, but we ate up the clock and we went down and scored a touchdown. And Baker got pretty selfish and wanted to throw a touchdown to Mike at the end.
Speaking about eating up clock, how much are you, as a coordinator, where your eyes on the offense, but you got defenders that are starting to drop like flies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like when you're in a game and when you're in that kind of moment, how much are you looking over and being conscientious of that? Because sometimes you might need to eat up clock
Right.
just to be able to keep a guy like, Christian Isian
Yeah.
from having to,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely on the mind a little bit where it's a balance, right? It's a balance between wanting to be aggressive as a play caller and get plays off that we like on our call sheet against certain defenses while also understanding this is a team game and that we have to make sure that we're putting our team first, not just the offense first when it comes to how we want to operate, how we want to go about this thing. Until Todd tells me to take, the foot off the gas, we're going to try to go.
Speaking of Todd, he's gives you a lot of autonomy. He did the same thing with Canals last year in terms of running the show. But at the same time, you stand next to him on the sideline.
Yeah.
What type of interaction is
I kind of ask him like what he'd almost be thinking in some, instances. Like, do you think he'll zero me here? Would you be thinking zero here in some ways? Just we had some good dialogue. I bounced some things off of him in those moments. Maybe I would tell him what we're running. Hey, we got to run here. Or, hey, I'm thinking maybe is a possible 4-down situation. Or, hey, can I get a runoff here if we're going to maybe have 4 downs to go for it? He just provides great insight, and might as well use him as a tool.
Does he help accelerate your experience as a play
Yeah,
caller?
I would say absolutely. He's somebody to learn from, and that can, in a great way, kind of push you towards maybe an answer, right? And go with your gut or whatever it is. Hey, think about this. I mean, he's just got great insight into the game. So I'm gonna lean on him as much as possible.
I know injury situation will be fluid. Gedeke was in concussion protocol. Schooley was out there today.
Yeah.
If you don't have Gedeke, does that change the way you would game plan?
We'll see. Todd will address the injury situation with Luke, and I think, not really, because we've got to be prepared for these tackles, right? Like these DNs, they're really good players either way, right? So we've got to have a plan to not let 97 and 92 wreck this game, right? So we've got to have chips. We've got to have things in place in order to protect everybody. Protect both tackles. It doesn't matter who. We can't let them. We can't walk out of the game Sunday and say, man, Aiden Hutchinson beat us because we didn't have a chip on him on this play. Like that would be a little frustrating. So we've got to go into it regardless of who's playing with a really strong chip plan or plan to at least keep those guys on their toes.
How much can you take from the Rams playing Detroit on Sunday night, just given your experience?
Not a lot. No, it was just they played them in base defense the entire game, except for on known passing situations and third down. So that's something that we have to prepare for, obviously, where they just said, hey, we're going to try to make you one-dimensional. We're going to say that we're going to put base defense on the grass, and you're going to throw it every snap. So that's something that we have to have a plan for. So that was something that you wish you could have gotten more. Like you wish if they would have played the game in nickel, then Sean I think would have been able to do some more that we would have been able to take from in that game. Essentially, they just said, hey, this is what we're going to do and force you to. We're going to dictate the terms of the game. So that was a little frustrating.
I'm sure when you looked at the film when you came in at the personnel you were inheriting,
Yeah.
you might have seen in that Tennessee Titans game, Cody Mauch racing Rashad White to the end zone on that screen pass. Now you've got two guys that have a lot of mobility on screens.
Yeah.
Even run plays to get to the next level, and
Right.
Graham Martin and Cody.
Yeah.
What does that dynamic do for you as a play caller? You've got
Yeah.
athletes.
That helps.
in the interior.
Yeah, it helps because it allows us to be diverse, right? It allows us to obviously want to run the football, we want to protect, but the screens, the jet sweeps, the ability to get our linemen in space and also our skill players in space. So it just allows for more diversity, allows for a little bit more creativity where you don't feel handcuffed by your personnel.
A couple more? When you only dress 7 or 8 offensive linemen, you only have so much depth to begin with, but with Get-A-Cat, if school was in there, who would be the swing on Sunday?
We're kind of working through that at the moment. It'll be between a few guys. Hainsey would be one of those, those guys who's played tackle in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.